Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie discussion in the multiverse. I am your host, Adam Porters, and joining me today, he's a giant with a soul of iron. Sweet Sean's a Kovacs from the internet.
I not gun.
And from an echoey dungeon lair, welcome to the show, Matthew Secular Man Vandiver.
Hey, everybody.
Pretty good.
Hi, Mr. Vandiver. Welcome back, everybody. This week, holy moly, the people over at patreon.com/HMP had themselves one heck of a fist fight over what we're going to watch this week. It was kind of maddening. I was just like, I watched it in real time.
How was it maddening?
Because it was just like, okay, let me tell you how it started off. It started off with Attack of the Titan jumped out and looked like it was just going to murder. No one else was touching it. Then all of a sudden, Spirited Away comes up and goes, hey guys, what's happening? Osmosis Jones in the middle just kind of went like, hey guys, over it. And everybody's like, shut up, Osmosis Jones. Don't nobody want to talk to you. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Iron Giant came in like a beast and knocked out at 44% versus Attack on Titan's 37%. And Spirited Away's 15%, and Osmosis Jones down there with 4%. But hey, ain't nobody in the world want to watch Silver Surfer, the animated series, when it came out, and Lord knows they don't want to watch it now. So
if there was ever going to be a show that watched Silver Surfer, this would have been the one. And everyone went, no, thank you.
No, we are good to go, and we do not want any of that. So they have said we watched the Iron Giant, and by George, we did. So thank you for those folks that support this show over at patreon.com/HMP. You get pre-show, you get post-show, you get Dinger Zone. And in Dinger Zone, we're talking about kind of future HMP stuff right now. So do check that out over there. Matthew, do you enjoy being a Patreon subscriber in as much as maybe one day we ask you to co-host a show as well?
Are you kidding? The entertainment value I get alone is worth at least half my lifespan.
All right.
Whoa, hey. No, it's not.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, just with Bruce's material alone.
Disagree. I think, I think I speak for the rest of the HMP panel today when I say, that scene in The Rocketeer where it's the best scene. It's the best scene in The Rocketeer. It's not even close. Where the Rocketeer is up on the building and he's next to the American flag, and the gangster, he goes, I might not have made an honest buck my entire life, but I'm 100% American. You go get him, kid.
Yeah.
And they nod at each other, and he takes off. That's what we're doing right now to the patrons. So thank you.
I actually have a Rocketeer figure in that pose.
Man, that if you're going to get one, that's the one to get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So go ahead and do that. But if you can't support us over at Patreon, hit us up on the iTunes. Give us a 5-star, a.k.a. Humdinger. We really appreciate that. So check it out, patreon.com/HMP. All right, let's get into it. Here is the IMDb plot line for the Iron Giant. As we know, IMDb always 100% correct in everything they say and or do. A young boy befriends a giant robot from outer space that a paranoid government agent wants to destroy. Hey, listen, if you're going to get it down to it, IMDb, that's as succinct as I can possibly imagine it.
Pretty good.
So we don't have an actual thing, like a comic book connection or anything for us this week, as Bruce is on a bit of a break. But let me break down the kind of creativeness of all of this. The Iron Giant was actually a book from Tim Hughes, but then it became a screen story by one Brad Bird, with the final screenplay being credited to Tim McCannells, with uncredited rewrites, which means they weren't significant enough to have them receive full credit for it. You got Brent Forrester and Brad Bird. They undoubtedly met on The Simpsons, I would imagine. And this is the featured debut for one Brad Bird. Holy smokes on this. Oh, previously to this, though, probably best known for being the director of the Bartman video.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that the Bartman video was him. That's cool.
Yeah, he directed that one, and of course worked on The Simpsons for a whole bunch of time there. And him and Brent Forrester, who also worked on like King of the Hill and a whole bunch of other stuff. This is just like when you look at the people that were involved in this, you go, "Oh, there's a reason this was all super great," because a million of the people in here are all just amazing. So
I had no idea my intro was so on topic.
So can how much do you know about the making of this movie, Adam?
No, nothing really.
Yeah, Matthew, do you know a ton?
I do not.
Okay, so here's the deal, right? So yes, the Iron Man was a book written by Hughes in England. So here's the way it goes down, right? So Warner Brothers wanted to make a musical out of it. That musical is all the music to that movie was already made by Pete Townsend.
Oh,
He has an entire soundtrack for a movie that doesn't exist, right?
Oh,
Once that falls to the wayside, somebody at Warner Brothers calls up Brad Bird and says, "Hey, we've got a project that I think is right up your alley." Brad Bird looks at the source material. He goes, "Yes, this is pretty great, but I want to change a few things." And by a few things, like 75% of the things get changed. So the Iron Giant is not much at all like the Iron Man. And I know that because I bought this book for my daughter because it is that big a deal in our house. The Iron Giant is her absolute favorite movie and has been so since she was even unable to speak. This is her favorite movie. So I have I know about as much as a person can know about a movie when it comes to Iron Giant. So Brad Bird gets the project. When he gets the project, Warner Brothers has Quest for Camelot come out, and it absolutely tanks, as it should. That's a stupid movie. No one cares. And because of that, his budget gets cut into a third of what they were originally going to give him. And he doesn't have 5 years like Disney animators do. He has 2.5 years to get this movie off the ground. Oh, and by the way, and Warner Brothers isn't even 100% on board about making this movie. They give him half the time that Disney has for animating a movie. They give him a third of the budget of a Disney animated movie, and they don't even know if they want the movie. So he has to pitch to Disney in the room. When he's in the room with the Disney execs, basically this is his pitch. He says to them, "What if a gun had a soul and that gun decided it didn't want to be a gun anymore?" And completely sells them in the room on that. Also, it doesn't hurt that he's Brad Bird and he's worked on, The Simpsons, and he's from Disney, and everybody really respects him, even though he's kind of like, even at this time, even before the Iron Giant, people are like, he's a little difficult to work with. And so, but because of his pedigree and because, he makes good movies, he goes ahead and makes this movie. In order to get the amount of animators that he needs to make this movie in the time he needs, he goes straight to CalArts, pulls kids out of school to help animate this movie.
jeez.
And he makes it, he gets it on time, on budget, he gets there. The budget part is more his producer, not him, because if you know anything about Brad Bird, he's constantly fighting against the producers of his own movie to always try to get more money. Even when it's the amount of money he's already asked for, he'll do it like he does. He did it on Mission Impossible. Yeah. He did it on Tomorrowland. He does it for literally everything. And so even back then, when he is like, lowercase b, Brad Bird, he is still that way. He's voracious. Because it's about making the best product you can possibly make. So they get this thing on time, on budget, and Warner Brothers has done literally no marketing for this thing.
ugh.
That's one thing that I because in 1999, because I was thinking back, I'm like, why did I not watch this? And you're absolutely right. I don't remember seeing any ads for it. Of course, like I'm like a senior in high school at this point, so obviously it's like this is like Fight Club time and everything.
Yeah.
You're into super edgy cinema and whatnot, and so an animated thing's probably not going to appeal to me all of that much. And again, like you said, you add on top of that it wasn't really advertised, so you didn't really see it much, and it kind of just looked like a. I remember just seeing like little snippets of the robot, maybe just saying Superman or something. I don't know what he said in the ads, but he's saying something and it's like, that kind of looks stupid. Let me go on to my edgy cinema in 1999.
Well, it's not even. It's not only is it barely marketed, but what they do have marketing wise is very poorly done. Like if you watch TV commercials from the time of Iron Giant, they're basically trying to pitch it to like preteens.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about how Iron Giant rocks, like it's stuff like that, and that's definitely not what this movie is. And meanwhile, Disney is about to unload Tarzan on everyone, and they've been marketing Tarzan for a year ahead of time. They get this thing on time. They want to push. Warner Brothers wants to push Iron Giant an entire year later so that they would have enough time for marketing. However, Brad Bird knows that Warner Brothers animation department is about to sink. Like all of the warning signs are there, and he's so worried that they're not even going to release the movie into theaters that he needs it released right now. And so they kind of do how about 6 months? Nope, that's too long. You guys might not be here anymore. So they get it down to about 4 months from when he finishes to release date. And that's when they start the marketing, and it's so poorly done that even somebody who this is right up their alley for me, this was a fastball immediately. And I didn't even know this movie existed. I had to have a buddy at work tell me about this movie, where he's like, I saw probably the best animated movie I've ever seen in my life this weekend. And I was like, what is it? And he said, The Iron Giant. And I said, I've never even heard of that movie. What is that movie? And so he kind of pitched me on it, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, I'll check it out.
So it kind of had similar troubles to Mask of the Phantasm, huh?
A little bit. I mean, you've got the Batman runner in that, so like you're gonna get more eyeballs on something when it's a known property, as you know. But like with something like the Iron Giant, which is a harder sell. And here's the weird part: is that when they test marketed this movie, it got the biggest score that Warner Brothers had gotten in 15 years. And so all of the grown-ups at Warner Brothers were kind of flipping out, because they were like, oh no, we completely short-sheeted this movie. We thought it was going to be a middling, low-level success. So what are we going to do? And so they panic, and that's why they were the ones who were like, maybe we should wait a year to release this so that we can market it properly. But Brad Bird also rightfully, he was right. They were gone within the year. They were not a studio a year later. Well, it's pretty amazing.
Well, before we get into everything here, if that little intro wasn't enough to sell everybody on it, let me sell everybody on this Iron Giant, man, because this sucker's got everything. It's 1999, so we got Rachel Green up in this mug. We also got Shooter McGavin, the dad from Frasier, Harv from Critters, the king of white jazz. No, not Kenny G. He's a close second, though. We got Harry Kick the Tires and Light the Fires, Connick Jr. Yes, sir. We got Vin Diesel in his best performance ever. It's 1957, so you know it's Brad Bird's aesthetic going on. We got an giant iron robot. We got an energetic young child, a wild government agent hell-bent on death and destruction, a soul-patched beatnik who makes art in his junkyard, adventures with deer and death, Superman learning new languages, Chekhov's self-healing robot shows its head a little early. We've got a game of hide the robot hand, sneaking one past the government. We got metal eating, fun with electricity, train crashing, kids saving, mild swearing, nuclear missile launching. Yet this movie never seems like it's reaching a world fever pitch, which is actually great. And be it a gun or not to be a gun, I'm fairly sure they ripped that one off from Shakespeare. And an ending that'll melt the heart of everyone, even as someone as dead inside as Sean. This movie's got everything.
I'm not dead inside. I just haven't been happy since I was 8.
That's fair. So let's start with Matt. Have you seen this movie previously?
I had. I was one of those people who was pretty late to it. I don't remember when I first saw it, but it was after it hit DVD, I'm pretty sure. Mm-hmm. But I watched it like twice in the last 2 days, and my opinion on it has quite grown.
Oh wow!
So even more so then. That's a good sign, because honestly, that's how I kind of feel like. 'Cause I think my biggest problem, but I mean, I don't know, maybe, is that I had like maybe a weird misconception of what this movie might actually be. I had no clue. I had really no idea of the plot. I knew boy, I knew robot. That's it. I didn't know how small it would be. That's
you didn't know that it's and it takes its time too.
Yeah,
you probably didn't know that either.
I didn't know that it would take its time, and I did not realize that it would be this small little intimate thing in a town in the Northeast that's just very not very populated and everything. And I was shocked at that, actually, and I was like, oh, this is not the movie I thought this thing might be nearly at all. And I don't think that I had any real preconceived notion either, because again, bad marketing. And I've seen the iconography of the character, of course, but that doesn't tell you anything about this story at all.
Right, but I mean, the iconography is so great. I mean, you get Joe Johnson working on something, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it looks spectacular, and that is one thing that you look at through this. And what I love about it too is, just from a visual perspective, is it's so Brad Bird, and you see everything from this flow on to his work afterwards. You can just point to stuff like the walls in the house, and you're just like, oh, this is the house in Tomorrowland. It's almost the exact same house. I'm looking at elements, and I'm just going, well, Brad Bird loves himself some Brad Bird, which I love.
In the documentary for Iron Giant, they're talking to Brad Bird, and one of the things he says is that everybody on this movie, when they were making it, everyone got better. And he said, and I'm including myself in that, which is a big deal for Brad Bird to say. That is not pretend when he says something like that. He thinks very highly of himself.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys know the backstory to Brad Bird when it comes to this movie. I mean, on a personal level, his sister was killed by her husband with a gun.
No, did not know this.
No.
Yes, and so that's why this story spoke to Brad Bird so much. Is that I mean, the anti-gun violence is definitely inherent in the system in this script, but it's more than that. There is so much more packed into this movie. So the people who have the I'm tired of getting preached to about guns. Yes, but that's only part of it.
But and that's the thing that I found interesting, was that it clearly was because it's saying it, it's not like it's hiding it, the fact that he is a gun. Yes. So while it is about that, it's also about just general. It's about warfare. It's about government interference and stuff. It's about a lot of different things, and that's what I think puts a Brad Bird movie ahead of a lot of other movies, is that he's thinking about more than just that one thing. So I think you're right to limit it to, it's just about a gun per se. That's short shrifting it, I think.
Yeah,
so it was like going beyond how you were created or born or that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty inherent in the script, and they even say it aloud multiple times, where you choose who you are. You get to choose who you are. That's not set in stone. And that's the major overarching thing about this movie.
Yep.
Which makes it so special. But the other part to this, the sneaky stuff in this movie, because there's a bunch of sneaky stuff, the good stuff, as I like to call it, is that when he sets it in late 50s New England, right, in Maine.
Yeah.
And basically everyone's smiling and it's idyllic and everything's pretty, but and everyone's nice to each other. But there is this just massive pressure cooker happening with all of the townspeople, with the government as well. And then you have something you have an outsider Dean McCopin, that's his name. I had to reach into the recesses of my brain for a second. Who's he's a beatnik, he's an outsider. Everybody thinks he's a joke, but he's the only person in this town who takes things as they are instead of what you think they are. And it's one of the most interesting aspects of this movie to me, is that you take somebody like Kent Mansley, who's smiling and he looks like he would be the perfect person for Hogarth's mom, for Annie Hughes, because he looks the part, but underneath the smile and the weird good looks that this character has, which is why Christopher McDonald is so perfectly cast, because he's weirdly good looking. It's why it's so pitch perfect casting wise, but because he is such a frightened human being, and he's so scared of the future and what's coming, that he's a horrible person. And it's so sneaky that you could miss it if you're not paying attention.
And ultimately, and we're jumping all around, and of course, there'll be, as always with the show, spoilers for everything. But like, it's only then at the end that he just goes like, "Oh, I have been making horrible mistakes." He realizes it only in the face of his absolute imminent death. Does he just go, yes. "Oh, I've done everything wrong. This has been one big giant mistake on my part."
well, not only that, man, but he also tries to run away from his own consequences, and then immediately the Iron Giant stops him. It's pretty amazing.
And I love the Cold War paranoia that pervades the entire thing.
Yeah, that's why it's perfect that it's set in 1957, and you see Sputnik in the air, and
we get a great, and like, this is just Brad Bird's bread and butter. This stuff is like the animated 50s Fallout animation that they were watching, where the bomb goes down and blows up everything
video.
But the desk. There's a giant crater around everything. It's so great,
except the desk. Yeah,
just the desk is standing.
I wasn't sure if that was actually a film from the past or if he made it himself.
I'm sure that's him. That feels like him all day long. His sense of humor from what we've seen over the years. I'm going to put that all on Brad Bird for sure.
They really made those back then.
They made some, but it was
the kids don't get scared.
Some of them weren't quite as bad as like, hey, the bomb will be on top of your desk and everything around you will be exploded, but not you. That's a little bit of a stretch, I think. Even for those guys.
They lifted. They left it a little wishy-washy on purpose, whether that ducking under your desk was going to work or not.
And for safety, just stay there until the safe alarm. Then you're good. If, you never hear safe alarm, you're dead. So there you go.
Thanks, Wooden Desk by Schoolco.
There's the casting. I know that he had a fight for casting because the Warner Brothers executives wanted him to use big names for this movie. And the only one that he agreed to was Jennifer Aniston, which is great. She's really good in this part.
Yeah, she's good.
Good mother.
But it was a fight to get Harry Connick Jr. because they wanted to use John Travolta. The Warner Brothers guys wanted to have John Travolta in there. Just terrible. And for Kent Mansley, they wanted to use Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he said absolutely not.
Now, at the same time, too, we do have to remember, oftentimes when they, especially in animation, they will get a lot of voices and then, kind of animate characters to that. And certainly that is the case here. And so my guess is the character was not designed full and 100%, you know what I mean? Because it looks a little bit like McDonald. It does. There's a little bit.
A little bit.
There's a little bit of him in there in the facial animation because you have to animate to the voice. So I can almost promise you there was a video camera on that man and some references were taken.
And they did it with all of the main actors, even Vin Diesel. They did.
And honestly, it's so stupid, but I felt that. I felt Vin Diesel. I swear to you, I'm not surprised because the way the head tilts and some of the eye movements and stuff, I'm sitting there going, I bet you money they filmed Vin Diesel and animated this somewhat similar to him. I wouldn't be surprised. So you say that happened actually?
It did, yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
With all of their behind the scenes stuff on the documentary for Iron Giant, if you want to see a pre-jaded by Fast and the Furious Vin Diesel, it's pretty great.
It's my favorite Vin Diesel. I love Before Famous Vin Diesel. It's like, oh my, you have all the hope in the world for that guy. And
he's in the recording studio and he goes, this thing is gonna make all the money, man. This is gonna be amazing. And Brad Bird comes in and he goes, we're just trying to finish it and make a good movie.
Mission accomplished, Brad.
Hey, listen, I like that he's still kept the character till today. He's just like, you know what? We're always going to be on top. Everything's going to go straight to the top, number one. We the best. We the best, aren't we?
my mind is just swimming with the idea that if this was made in the 50s, they'd have Mel Blanc doing every voice.
Ooh,
That's
hey,
true.
listen,
You're not wrong.
I wouldn't be against it.
Nor would I. And it's funny, man, because you see the way he's treating all of the actors, and you have your actors like Christopher McDonald that he's treating with affection because he's just really good at his job.
Yeah, and from everything I hear, a very nice guy.
But when it comes to Eli Marienthal, who did the voice of Hogarth in this movie, he is a very wise 12-year-old in that booth.
Mm-hmm.
And so Brad comes in and he's walking in there like his hair's on fire, and he's like he's talking to him not like a kid, he's talking to him like an actor, and he's going, and you need to do this and you need to do this. And you see Eli go, okay, Brad. Kind of like trying to settle him down. And this is a 12-year-old boy who's doing this.
That's great. I feel like I would be that director that would just be like, listen, I'm just going to talk. Because honestly, that's how my mom ended up talking to me as a kid, because dad was working all the time and stuff. So she just talked to me like I was an adult. So I feel like that's what I would end up doing with that kid, was just be like, listen, I'm just going to talk to you like a regular person, okay? Talk to you like, I don't know what do 11-year-olds talk like. I don't know.
I don't remember.
So to get into the movie itself, because I keep talking about the behind the scenes stuff. Just
it's so fascinating to me, and I don't know any of it. So that's like, because that was one of the things when watching, is just like, the animation is fantastic. I see. It is just like Brad Bird wears all of his influences on his sleeve, but yet still makes something that is solely and uniquely him at the exact same time. And that's something special that you can go, oh, I see where he's taking everything, but this isn't him copying that stuff. He's just doing his spin on it, and it's pretty sweet.
Like
Brad Bird is the word.
Absolutely. And you can tell that he has such an affinity for old Disney with this movie. Yeah. Not the stuff that they're doing in the 80s and 90s, but like pre that, where it's the Nine Masters from Disney and all that stuff. Like, this feels so much like one of their movies, quite honestly.
Yeah, there's a bit of Don Bluth in here, isn't there?
Well, he's one of the nine, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And so you have like, and then you have that really cool. They made the really great choice of everything is hand animated except for the Iron Giant and Sputnik, and Iron Giant is completely computer generated to feel like it's out of place, even though they gave this like squiggle to him when he's moving, so it feel like your brain is telling you that this might be hand animated. You can't really tell at times, but it is. And I just thought it's yet another really nice touch, which is something Brad Bird does so well, is the little stuff, like all of the little things that people don't think of a lot. He's doing it. Like I always think of this movie whenever I see the 7th Star Wars movie, because when you get to Rey, and Rey is kind of, like, for lack of a better term, playing, where when we first meet her, she's just going about her day and she's rummaging through stuff. I always think of the Iron Giant when it comes to that, because there's so many little moments in the Iron Giant at the beginning of the movie that are telling you who Hogarth is, who his mom is, who Dean is, where it's like they're not explicitly telling you, they're showing you this is who these people are. And it's so interesting to me. And it's just this little town, and his mom works at a diner and she's tired. And it's things like when Hogarth answers the phone, he's been told to say these words. Hi, this is the Hogarth residence. Hogarth, you speaking. Like, just stuff like that, where it's just nice little touches like that.
And that was a very 50s thing as well. It's like you had your proper way to answer a telephone. There were etiquette, and things that you were supposed to ascribe to, especially, if your parents are probably early 50s parents and stuff like that. Let's see, if you keep that kind of stuff around, it could be pretty annoying. But I like, now, did he talk at all? Because they mention it, but yet we don't really know what is with the Hogarth name.
They don't say.
Yeah, and so we were just to go. It's something Brad Bird just like to name a character.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he does in some other place, but all of the back matter stuff that I've watched over the years, they don't say.
They're just like,
I know that Hughes is because of the writer of the Iron Man, where this all came from in the first place. But the Hogarth, I have no idea.
Okay,
I've been thinking his father's name was Homer Garth Hughes.
Is what?
His father's name was Homer Garth Hughes, is what is popping into my head.
so they called him Hogarth to just kind of put it all together there. And that's a Southern thing that happens.
Portmanteau.
And I was also trying to figure out where the dad is, because it's too late for him to have died in the war, right?
Yeah,
because
that was another thing that I was that it kind of there
not
was a
Korean
quest
War,
for a dad or a father
War.
figure in some way throughout that also kind of had a bit of a
Korean War. That's a good point, man.
That's what I'm thinking. Probably died in the Korean War.
That's good.
Which would kind of help explain Hogarth's opinion on firearms and whatnot.
Yeah. And there's also the fact that we have no idea where the Iron Giant comes from, and Brad Bird doesn't know either, because he's been asked multiple times, and even as recently as 2 years ago, he's like, "Look, we left it kind of, in the ether on purpose, because we're trying to make a movie about a giant robot man and a boy.
Yeah.
We're not trying to make a movie about where this guy came from."
Who cares? It's the Pulp Fiction briefcase. You don't want to know. There's only one person that knows, and even but like you said, even Brad Bird's just like, listen, this is the story that we wrote. It doesn't even matter. What matters? The story is what we just told you. Who cares where he came from? And I am so glad that, we are this far in the future and no one has commissioned an Iron Giant 2 or anything else like that and followed up, because boy, oh boy, I feel like that would just be the biggest mistake ever.
Well, what are you talking about? It's like you haven't even seen Ready Player One. What are you talking about?
Now he has a cameo there. But
a cameo, sir, it's one of the biggest. It's the big fight scene at the end of Ready Player One.
I gotta watch the movie again. Where it's him
versus Mecha Godzilla.
Do you know how bored I was at that film?
Yeah, it's awful. It's really bad. It's one of Spielberg's worst movies.
I put in the soundtrack though. Like, if you like, the surround sound is amazing, so you can watch that chase scene. But that's about it. The story wise, don't stick around.
Yeah, it's not good. And also, if you're going to immerse yourself into VR, why do you wear a full bodysuit? So if somebody kicks you in the junk, you can feel it in real life. Why would you want that?
Well, you see, the one for the junk has two purposes, but they don't always think it's going to be the other one. So.
but there's no motion to it.
They like to be
kids these days are all into. They want their reality and everything.
I want my music to punch me in the chest, please.
So when I thought they parse it out really great when it comes to Hogarth meeting the robot. It feels a lot like a Spielberg movie where you're a little afraid, like the kid's afraid.
It's so good. This is one of the things that he clearly pulls from, and I love it so much. There's an element of E.T. in this movie, 100%, which I love. And again, that's all you have to do, people, is take these great, essentially timeless themes and riff on them, make them new and different. So while I see this and just go, oh, this is that movie, it's also not. But that's for me it works. For me it works completely. And I was just like, oh my God, Brad Bird is just showing us everything that he loves in kind of a playlist fashion of so many different things, and I'm just like, I'm here for it.
They also do all of the things that you're supposed to do if it's a boy who befriends a giant robot, right? Like you get the thing where he picks him up in his hand. He's walking, and as the Iron Giant is walking, Hogarth is looking through his fingers.
That is one. This is the moment right in this movie that I was just like, Brad Bird, you genius, you done did it. Because you are right there. You are riding the Iron Giant's hand with him. You are looking over as he looks over. We then rack focus on the ground. You are doing it. You're doing this exact same thing. Then you're riding side by side with him through there. And you are on this. This made me want to watch this on a big screen so friggin' bad. I was just like, oh, if this gets any kind of special re-release, I'm going to see it, because this is a movie that does need to be seen as large as you possibly can.
Agreed.
Yeah, it's really good, man. I noticed that there is a lot of camera moves in this movie also. Like when they're in the diner and Dean comes back the next day talking to Hogarth's mom, and he's like, why is a girl like you serving coffee to a guy like me? And the camera racks focus to the sign right behind her that says, because we're able to refuse service to anyone. And I was like, that is so Brad Birdy that literally you can't see the sign until they rack focus on the camera that doesn't exist. It's so great. Such an interesting touch. And again, it's the thing that I keep screaming about this movie is that all the little touches. It's set up like clockwork, this script too. It has that feel of something like Tremors. Like Tremors has a really great screenplay. And so does this movie. Shocking of shocks that this has a good screenplay, I know, but like everything sets up, everything pays off. It does, like they set it up when he gets hit by the train so that at the end of the movie, those pieces are going to be coming back together again later. Yeah. Like, all of these things, it's just set up, pay off.
But it's also done at the right pace to where, because we get that, like the self-healing kind of thing and everything. We see all that stuff. And it's one of those things where I'm telling you, I know Brad Bird is just like, I know just the right time to make people think that you've gotten just enough time away from that to have almost forgotten about it, and then it happens. And then it's just as far out of your memory, and then he brings it back in that last second going, hey, you remember this? And you're like, oh my God, yes. It's so smooth.
So the biggest fight they had with the screenplay, and it's not two people fighting, it's man versus himself here, where they're trying to figure out how to get to the point across the Iron Giant knows what death is. And originally what the thought was, the Iron Giant sees this deer. He thinks the deer is so great that he smashes it with his hands.
Oh, the old
the rabbits, of Mice and Men, Lenny thing. It's and everybody in the room knows this is a step too far. Yeah, we need to figure this out.
It is a kids' film, so it's a rough one. That's
right. And there's enough to scare kids already in this movie. We don't need this guy killing deer also.
Yeah, not too Frankensteinian.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, this movie's also very Frankenstein. I did want to point that out as well. Thank you, Matt, for reminding me. Frankenstein's monster all the way through. Love it. Go ahead.
Definitely. And so they're fighting back and forth with each other about how to fix this. Like, what do we do? How do we get there? And so finally they get to, and again, because of themes, they get to the point of what if he has the moment with the deer where you have again, like E.T., he's reaching out to the deer sniffing his nose or sniffing his finger, and then Hunter shoot him. And this is right up. I don't think Brad Bird came up with a solution to this, but I can totally see a writer in the room knowing, oh, Brad's going to love this. This is exactly the thing. and so that's what they went with. But then the point came across of, where do we put this scene in the movie? Because this is a very tough scene, and we have to get and we have to have a complete shift change happen after this moment, because we can't linger here for too long. This is a kids movie after all.
Yeah.
And so that becomes the other argument. So now they have the solution to their plot problem, and now it's a pacing problem because of what happens in this movie. And it's just one of those things where you're like, I love that there are people who just want to make the best thing they possibly can, and it has nothing to do with anything else except for creativity. And that's why I think I like this movie so much.
And I thought it was good because it was just like, oh, we have the ability to go, yeah, things can die. This is the stuff that happens. You're in the real world, so to speak, not kind of the animated world where no one really gets shot and dies. It's not G.I. Joe where lasers are just going across the screen and it never, hits anybody. This hit a deer. Death is possible. You get that across, and it doesn't. Again, it doesn't hit away at kid stuff or anything, but it doesn't. It doesn't over or under sentimentalize anything. It kind of just is very black and white in a lot of ways. I thought it was masterfully done, actually.
Yep.
And how that scene emphasizes the gun rather than the hunters.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yep. Agreed.
And I could be wrong, and I'd have to go back and do a visual check. But I think those hunters may be modeled on the two gravediggers in Plan 9 from Outer Space. I could be wrong.
Oh.
But that's just a visual that popped in my head when I saw the two of them and turning around and running away. I was just like, it looks like the two dudes from Plan 9. I could be wrong, but that's
man. I saw that movie one time, and it was not nearly as fun as the movie Ed Wood made it seem.
No,
you could be right. I mean, I love the Forbidden Planet poster we see at one point.
Yeah,
my favorite sci-fi movies, and I'm probably overthinking this, but at the scene where Hogarth is teaching him rock. Tree. I was wondering, am I supposed to be thinking rocketry?
Oh, I never thought about that. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
I might be overthinking it, but maybe 50s sci-fi rockets. Perhaps I'm not.
That's good as guess as any.
I don't know, and there's no tip of the hand here to let you know.
And that's great.
Although I got to tell you, man. So because I'm going to forget if I don't say it right now. So sorry, but so smash cut to the end, not the end of the movie, but the release of this movie. It is an abject failure. On every level. And Warner Brothers executives from that time, they blame themselves. They're like, we did such a poor job marketing this movie. This movie should have been an instant classic. This should have been something that people talk about for years and years and years. And it's on us. Like, we screwed that up. However, Brad Bird gets a phone call from Guillermo del Toro. And he says to him, I know that you feel like a failure right now because the movie is done poorly and it makes you feel bad. And that's not going to go away anytime soon. But you need to keep in mind that you have made a classic. And this is something that people are going to be talking about forever. And so congratulations. And Brad Bird was like, after I got off the phone with Guillermo del Toro, it didn't make everything better, but it did make it so that I wasn't about to jump off a building.
Yeah. And here's the thing, Guillermo's got a pretty good eye, and he knows he's a historian of film and stuff like that. So he's got a pretty good opinion on stuff. So if he goes, you made something that's probably going to endure, there's a decent chance.
Yeah.
I would say, okay, what are the couple other little things? I was shocked. I was shocked at the Dean character and how much, because the second you see him, you go like, oh, I'm going to hate this guy.
Right.
And you don't.
Because he endears himself right away.
Yeah.
Because he actually endears himself where he's keeping the kids' secrets. He's not trying to be cool. He's just trying he hates the law. There's all this stuff that's to recommend the man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he likes starting crap a little bit with some of the townspeople just if they need it. Just
he stands up for the kooks, right?
Yeah. If we don't stand up for the kooks, who no one else is going to do it. Right.
Who better to know that than a kook?
And
exactly.
We can all identify with that, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Certainly on this show. But he's also he's not just the junk guy. He's an artist and stuff, and he's trying, new things, which, in 1957 had to look like, insane people stuff.
Yeah.
So, and so he's kind of on this, new art edge and stuff like that. So, but again, it doesn't need to be there. But at the same time, too, I love the big disguise at the end and how there's so many times in this movie, now it's animated, it's fun, and you have to do this stuff, where people just kind of see a big thing and just kind of go, well, I guess that's always been there. like with I love it to death with the billboard and everything and the cheeseburger holding it up there. I love that, but at the same time too, I just go, my man, do you not drive by this every day?
I mean, you gotta have.
Oh no, of course, but it's so much fun too that you just throw all that logic away and just kind of and live with it, and it's so much fun that we can just kind of he puts a whole bunch of crap on them and they walk in and they just go, oh, it's another one of his dumb old art exhibits. Who cares?
There's that great moment too where the old man is selling Dean his tractor for scrap, and he's like, I'm sorry, I couldn't pay you more for it, but it's got a big bite out of it. And the old man goes, that's why I'm selling it. It's got a big bite out of it. It's the read on those lines is so pitch perfect.
One of the things that I love most about this movie is the reveals, like the billboard and Kent Mansley getting into his car and then suddenly realizing that half of it's gone.
Yeah, that is great.
It was just, there's so many perfect reveals of things in this movie.
Agreed. That is so good.
I love the fact that we are associated with Warner Brothers and are able to reference Superman. I think that's just amazing.
Yeah, it's nice. I wonder how much they had to pay for that.
I don't think they had to pay anything because it's all Warner's.
Sir.
I'm sure they had to pay somebody.
That's not the way that works. That's where the fuzzy accounting comes in with every movie that you see.
Fair.
Is that like, oh, well, you've got to pay this person for the Superman license. Yeah. And it's like that comes out of your movie's budget, even though that's not any. There's no
question. My question is, were those authentic comic book covers that Hogarth shows the Iron Giant, or are they made up for the movie?
Boy, they sure did look real.
The Superman ones, the Superman one looked real. The other, there were one or two others that I know were obviously mock-up fakies and stuff. But the Superman ones feel pretty darn real. If not, that's a darn good amalgamation of one, I'll say. But that was in what? Oh God! Just this is the part, man. He's flying up. He's going after the nuclear warhead. And it's I am Superman. I'm about to tear up now. What are we talking about? Oh my God!
It's so good.
Oof!
Good. When they're in the barn with the comic books and the Iron Giant first says Superman, I got choked up.
And they set you up for the kill before he makes before you're absolutely certain he's going to make the decision, where he's like, "You stay, I go."
Yeah. Oh, jeez, Louise, dude.
I'm not made of stone.
Brad Bird over here just I'm going to shoot all these people in the audience and they're going to just all die. That's why no one went to see it, because we didn't all want to die in a theater, Brad Bird. Thanks a lot. We can do that in our privacy of our own home. Thank you very much.
Knowing how good it is and just seeing the budget versus box office just makes you sad.
Yeah, it is. It is terribly it's terribly offensive. But the thing about this movie, and it's the thing that it usually is the case with comedies, not with animated movies, is that if your comedy does very poorly in the movie theater, there is a very real chance that it will find a second life later. Mm-hmm. And something as recently as Booksmart is that. Booksmart to me is one of the best recent comedies in a very long time. But you look at, I don't want to burst your bubble,
but Booksmart made a lot of money for that.
Oh, did it really?
Yeah.
Did it? Yeah. But I'm thinking about Austin Powers that made almost no money in the theater. But then Second Life, it just blew
this
up.
And Iron Giant has become, and Del Toro was 100% correct. I mean, it's become a beloved classic for a reason. Right. Is that it is this good. And it got that second life in video, and not too many. And it's not even it's an animated drama almost, because animated drama-y adventure sort of. Yeah, because it's not funny, it's not comedy. There's no musical in it, thank God.
I don't know. There are funny moments, but you're right. It's not a comedy.
Yeah, no one's knee slapping a whole bunch. Yeah, there's some funny moments to be sure. I don't want to sit there and be like, it's 100% serious all the time.
There are two types of metal in this yard. There is scrap, and there is what is currently in your mouth, art. God, it's so good.
But the best part too is that he like just goes like, "Oh, okay," and then like makes him a little thing, and just, all right, that's not bad. Like,
Not bad. Not bad.
I love it. The way he's even as mad as he is, he's still just like, all right, fair.
Like, Dean is just the ultimate bonder. He can bond with
He's
anyone.
very endearing. Again, for a character that I thought we were engineered to hate from go, I was like, oh man, he's one of the best characters in the show. I was quite shocked by that. And again, I can't believe I'm going to say this. I applaud you, Harry Connick Jr. I didn't feel like it was you all the time. I mean, I knew it was you most of the time, but I didn't feel like it all of the time. You know, because Harry Connick Jr. can go Harry Connick Jr. a little bit too hard sometimes. Independence Day, the first and foremost. But
oh my God, I just forgot that my favorite line in the entire movie is that makes me laugh every time I see it is Kit Mansley before he gets in the car and notices that half of the car is missing. Under his breath, he gets the biggest thing in this town is probably the homecoming queen. Oh my God, it's so great.
Great, perfect delivery.
So great.
Perfect reveal.
I do love their how nuclear war works. As long as someone's shouting in the thing and says go, your finger hits that button, my man.
I heard go, I'm going.
Oh, and again, pardon me. I love the I love the kind of epilogue, if you will, where we've erected this giant statue to him and everything, and it's not just something that happened. He is something that people will remember. Yes, and I think that's amazing.
Yeah, it's not like the most recent Ghostbusters movie where it's like everybody seems to forget that the island of Manhattan was infested with ghosts twice. And then they show up and why is everyone having such a hard time believing that there's ghosts in this town? We know that ghosts exist in this unit. It's the thing that makes me crazy about that movie. Well, one of many things, but that's the big one that makes me crazy.
It's also the celestial that got frozen in the earth or something. And,
where is that? We haven't seen that again. Where is
5
that?
movies have gone and nary a mention of anything going on. We're just not a news report in the background. Nothing. They don't. Who knows? But
they've seen too many weird things already in that.
Yeah, at this point they're just like, oh, one of those again. Okay.
Yeah, the entire world is like New York City now. It's like, oh,
that or they're just Men in Black and everybody on television every night. Where they're just
that would be really great if they did, because at least there'd be a reason for why everything goes back to zero after all of these like earth-shattering events happen.
The old cleanup crew is here. Well, before we get to our final review, we have to ask ourselves how this animated adventure from Brad Bird relates back 1-to-1 with Sylvester Stallone.
Why, thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement.
Oh.
Welcome to downtown Coolsville, population us, Mr. Stallone. Today's Stallone connection is actor Christopher McDonald, who is best known as Shooter McGavin these days, but he's an actor that not only works constantly, but works with everyone. He's the voice of Kent Mansley in The Iron Giant, and he works for the government. Christopher McDonald was also in a show called Las Vegas, which, if anyone has ever listened to this podcast before, can tell you, also had a guest spot with you, Mr. Sylvester Stallone. Shooter McGavin's filmography is impressive. He's in Requiem for a Dream, The Man Who Wasn't There, and Quiz Show. But what I'd like to speak with you about today is a series of television movies that Christopher McDonald stars in that I didn't even know existed until I was looking for this week's Stallone connection. People who like movies know the movie Midnight Run, starring Robert De Niro and Charles Grodin. But what most people don't realize, myself included here, is that there's also 3 Midnight Run TV movies.
What?
Turns out the producers of Midnight Run wanted to make some sequels to Midnight Run, but the problem was they couldn't get De Niro because at the time, De Niro didn't want to work on projects that sucked. These days, not so big a problem, but back then, you're not getting De Niro. So what do? The producers get the next best thing, a New York actor that everyone can agree is almost an exact match for Robert De Niro, Christopher McDonald.
They're practically twins.
The first TV movie is the spot on and appropriately titled Another Midnight Run, a movie that has been described as, and I'm quoting here, not either funny or smart like the original, end quote. So if you're thinking of watching it, set that bar real low. The second TV movie is called Midnight Runaround, and it's directed by De Palma. No, not that De Palma, the other one. That's right. Frank De Palma. And you know him. You know his work. He was the director of the movie Private War. Come on. He directed an episode of the show Earth 2. Maybe you've heard of something called Wing Commander 3 and 4, the movie. So, yeah, he's perfect for Midnight Runaround. And finally, there's Midnight Run for Your Life. It takes place in Mexico. And unlike the other made-for-TV Midnight Run movies, people seem to like this one. It's basically the same thing as De Niro's Midnight Run, but it's got a Mexican flair to it and with a tenth of the budget. Now, am I going to start a Midnight Run podcast where we go through each movie minute by minute? Absolutely not. Am I going to watch these movies with my limited free time? Also, no. But am I going to bring up these terrible sequels on the rare chance that someone casually brings up Midnight Run? Absolutely, I am. And for the rest of my life. Because I love Midnight Run. And yes, I like Christopher McDonald as an actor. But replacing replacing Robert De Niro with him is like replacing Brad Pitt with Brian Posehn in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Can't wait to take his shirt off.
True. The shirtless roof scene, it would be amazing. But how's he supposed to fight Bruce Lee? That's unfair. And that's the Stallone connection this week. Actor Christopher McDonald. I hope to hear from you soon. Your pal, Sweet Shanzi from the internet.
Oh, my goodness.
You know, my favorite Christopher McDonald movie is the Ed O'Neill movie Dutch.
Oh, he is in Dutch. I totally forgot about that.
He's one of those guys that has been in a gazillion things. It's just
he really
crazy.
has, man.
And again, I think it's because he's a really nice guy and people like working with him.
He is easy to work with. That is what I've heard.
All righty. Well, here at Hero Movie Podcast, we have our own patented Robin rating system. Matthew, Secular Man Vandever, where does the Iron Giant from 1999 fall on the Robin rating system for you?
Oh, this is a Dick Grayson and all that implies.
Sean, what you got?
Yeah, man. I mean, geez, it is a hallmark in my family. Long after I am dead, my daughter is still going to be talking about the Iron Giant. It is literally her favorite movie of all time. As I said at the beginning of this show, this is the movie I have bought the most and seen the most, and it kind of shows you how cool my kids are. That the Iron Giant is my oldest's favorite movie, and my youngest's favorite movie is The Princess Bride. Guess who did a good job parenting? Me. I did.
Not too shabby.
I'll say.
Yeah. So. This is a Dick Grayson all day. It's not even remotely close. We have been very lucky this anime because we only got the one movie where it was like, I don't like this, but I don't hate it either.
Yeah,
we've had a good run here this year.
No one wants to jump off a cliff. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
Now, for me, this was my first viewing of this. It will most assuredly not be my last. I do like it. I am only going to give it a Tim Drake because I want the excuse to watch this again within the calendar year so I can re-rate it at the end. Because I think it's got that range to go up one more. Again, I think part of it was a preconceived notion on my part with some of the things. I don't want to blame. I'm like 90% out of my sick stage that I've been for the past 48 hours leading up to today. So I'm still maybe there's a tiny bit of that still floating around in there, but I want to watch this one more time. It did what it was supposed to do. It tugged at the heartstrings. It did all the right things. Brad Birded all over again, and I really liked it. And I'm not gonna go all the way to the top because I want an excuse to actually watch this again. So that's it for me. So fantastic reviews all around. Matthew, thank you for joining us for the last little bit here of anime, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Much. I greatly enjoyed it.
So you and Bruce will be back when? About another month from now? They can still go back and look at all the archive stuff, though, right?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, we'll have all those links there for you in the show notes. Sean, what else?
We have a show called 30Q, 30 Questions, where each week we review some nerdy property and we ask 30 questions of the latest episode of that thing, whether it be your Marvel, your Star Wars, whatever it is, we are there asking questions, sometimes hard-hitting questions like, don't you think that guy looks like Jim Rice? Things like that. And so check that out. It is 30Q. You punch it into your phone, 30Q with whatever you're on, and bammo. You'll see our shows.
Secret Invasion coming up in not too long here. I'm excited for that. And that may be, I could be wrong, but that may be the last one that Marvel goes a week to week with that. Because I think they're talking about just doing Echo as a dump.
Wow, really?
They're talking about just dumping Echo all in one go when that hat's out. That's what I hear.
Oh, boy.
That's the word on the street. So this may be the last Marvel 30Q for a bit unless something happens. We'll see. I don't know. Who's to say? But next week, everybody, we are headed back to the theater because there is a sequel to a very successful animated movie. We're kind of still, while we're being June at this point, it's still going to be anime all around because we are talking about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I think we all agreed that was the first one was just fantastic, and I have no clue.
So shocked. I was so shocked by that. Like, let me give you an example of how shocking how good that movie was for me. Is that I did not want to go to the movie theater because you already know about my terrible Atlanta movie experience. If I go to the movie theater closest to me, I might as well like just be like, hey, just take my money so I can have a terrible time.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of that kind of thing. So I wasn't looking forward to it. And the movie I wasn't looking forward to because it's Sony, even though it looked cool, the animation looked cool. I like the people behind it. I still didn't want to see it.
Track record, not so good, those Sony guys.
That name Sony on it. So I go and see the movie and I'm about 15 minutes in and my bad mood is completely lifted. And it is a treasure. It is a shock how good that movie was. And I hope they can do it again. But it's one of those things where like my expectations for this movie aren't super high because if they are, it's
gonna be dashed, man. It'll be bad news bears all around. I'm that's why I'm just going in. I know they've been really good with the trailers. Know little to nothing. So super stoked for what we're gonna get, and we'll talk all about that next week. Thank you, Matthew Vander, for joining us today for Sweet Sean's and Kovacs for the Internet and the absent Bruce Leslie. Matthew Vander, my name's Etta Portress. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Evie. Thank you, Matthew, for coming in. Seriously, awesome job.
Yeah.